Find out why Native Americans have long hair. The answer is beyond imagination. Knowledge that remains hidden for obvious reasons, information that has remained secret since the Vietnam War era. Western culture has led people to believe that hairstyle is a matter of personal preference, that hair length is about fashion or comfort. But if we go back to the era of the Vietnam War, we see an entirely different picture emerge, one that has remained carefully hidden from the public for decades. In the early 1990s, Sally, name changed for protection, married a distinguished psychologist who worked at a hospital for Vietnam War veterans suffering from post-traumatic combat stress. And Sally recounts, "I clearly remember one afternoon when my husband came home holding a bulky business file in his hands. Inside it were hundreds of pages from some government study. My husband was shocked by the content. When he read in that study, what he read later changed his life. From that day forward, my conservative middle-aged husband let his hair and beard grow and never cut them short again. Moreover, the medical center he worked at allowed him to do so, and even some other very conservative men on staff followed suit. I read the study and found out why." So it appears that during the Vietnam War, a branch of the Department of Defense had secretly sent special envoys to an American Indian camp, Native American Indian camp, to investigate and search for talented scouts, tough young men who were trained to navigate wild terrain without the enemy gets word of them, before the enemy gets word of them. They were looking for trackers with almost supernatural, unreal abilities. Before they were approached, those elite men were closely watched for their technique and way of survival. When they finally found what they were looking for, the Special Forces men, with beautiful words, lured the young Indians and convinced them to enlist in the American Army. And once they ranked, something amazing happened. Whatever talent and ability they previously possessed mysteriously disappeared, and one recruit after another failed to demonstrate what they had shown to know in their camp before they were recruited, when they had long hair, that is. After the significant failure of the recruits, the government conducted extensive tests to discover the cause, and what it found was described in the study. When the Native Americans were asked about the reasons for their failure, the oldest recruit insisted that when their long hair was cut, they could no longer feel the enemy, quote unquote, the enemy. They no longer had access to their sixth sense. Their intuition, it was no longer reliable. They could not read, quote unquote, the subtle invisible signals, and they no longer had access to the subtle extrasensory information. So the Institute conducted the tests, recruiting more Indian trackers, this time allowing them to keep their long hair, and subjected them to various tests. Then they sent the men in pairs, with both of the pair passing the test with the same score, and they let one keep his hair long while the other got a military haircut. Then they were again subjected to various tests. Men with cropped hair consistently failed the same tests they had previously passed with their long hair. A typical test: the recruit sleeps in the forest. An army enemy, quote unquote, approaches him. The long-haired man wakes up with a strong sense of danger and runs away before the enemy gets too close, before there is even a sound of the approaching enemy. In another version of the same test, the same man feels something approaching him and senses that the enemy will attack him with his body. He follows his sixth sense and stays still, pretending to be asleep. Suddenly grabs the attacker and quote unquote kills him as he tries to strangle him. This is, of course, in the drills. This same man who passed the tests then got a military haircut and continually failed these same tests that he had passed. Thus, the document recommended that all Indian trackers be exempted from the military haircut. Instead, trackers were required to keep their hair long. Now, I'm going to put my comment in here. The ancient Spartans, Leonidas and the 300, the ancient Spartans had long hair, like Hercules, who had long hair, like Samson, who had long hair. Let's remember, Samson was of the tribe of Dan, and the Spartans are Danites, Yes, from the tribe of Dan of the ancient Hebrew 12 tribes. It's also written in the Bible. In the book of the Maccabees, you'll clearly see it, that the children of, they exchanged letters with each other, and they had, they became allies. The Maccabees asked the Spartans for their help, and they became allies, and they said, "We are brothers of Abraham. What's ours is yours, what's yours is ours." And they kept their hair long, just like Samson. They used to, of course, comb their hair very nightly, very, very beautifully before they went into battle, so that they would look, handsome when they faced their enemies, or even if they didn't come back alive. So, comment here in this article: the mammalian body evolves over millions of years. The survival abilities of humans and animals often seems unreal, while science is constantly discovering new amazing abilities. Every part of the human body performs a very delicate task for the survival and well-being of the body. Hair is an extension of the nervous system. It can be seen as sensory nerves of the external side, a kind of highly sophisticated sensor or antenna that transmits vast amounts of important information to the brain. Not only the hair, but also the facial hair provides the brain with an information highway and also emits the electromagnetic energy of the brain to the environment. Of course, Native Americans don't have beards. They only have beards if they had some kind of a genetic influence from European ancestry. But Native Americans, pure Native Americans, don't have facial hair. But we're talking about, of course, perhaps the Hindus, or even, of course, the ancient Asians. The men had long hair. They used to tie it up in a knot. Now, so that not only the hair, but the facial hair provides the brain with an information highway, and also emits the electromagnetic energy of the brain to the environment. Scientists have seen this in Kirlian photographs, when a person is photographed with long hair and then he cuts the hair. When the hair is short, the intakes and emissions to and from the environment are greatly hindered. The result is numbness. They can't feel what's going on in their environment. Cutting hair contributes to people's lack of awareness of environmental destruction in local ecosystems. It also contributes to the lack of sensitivity in all kinds of relationships. It contributes to sexual frustration. Wow! Conclusion. In searching for solutions to the misery that exists in the world, it may be time to reflect on many our basic assumptions about reality and wrongs. Perhaps a big part of the solution lies in the face we look at in our mirror every day. A sort of Samson and Delilah in the Bible thing, containing many encoded truths. When Delilah cut off Samson's hair, the once invisible Samson was defeated. So consider that, except for the Native Americans, all ancient peoples kept long hair. This has nothing to do with the non-existence of scissors, because they did have scissors, of course. Such have also been found in excavations. Of course they had scissors. This is from Travel Style. I've translated this from a Greek article. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.